Alright guys, welcome back to Alaskan Savage, and I'm going to try to go over basic tackle for fishing Southeast Alaska, basically on Prince of Wales Island.
Right? That fish would have to have in the corner to really grab the meat.
Anywhere from trout to salmon, from fishing jigs to spoons and spinners, and even the fly gear. It's just going to be a basic. There'll be other patterns, other spinners, other spoons that'll work, but these are some of my go-to, and this isn't even all of them. They won't all fit on the table. I'm just throwing on here a little bit of variety so you can kind of see. The trout, early season, you start fishing them with insect patterns, grub patterns, salmon smolt patterns. In the fall, you start fishing egg patterns, flesh fly patterns. The salmon, early season, you start getting the sockeye, and I'll go over the sockeye flies with you and give you a close look. I'll grab the camera and come over here and show you. Then a little bit later, you start getting the coho and the pinks and the chum for the flies. I use jigs. I mix in jigs with the salmon. I throw spinners at the salmon. I'll show you a little variety of spinners that you're going to use and sizes that'll help you out. I'm going to go over spinning gear and fly rods. For a fly rod for trout, I wouldn't go any heavier than a 6-weight moderate action. All of our rivers are small. There's no really long casting for the most part. You're going to use a 4 to 6 weight, medium, moderate action, not heavy or fast. You can even go with a light. It'd be a lot of fun as long as you can feel comfortable throwing with it. For salmon, you're going to go 6 to 7s. About a 9.5 foot rod, 9 to 9.5 foot. You can do a spay rod. A lot of the rivers are really small though here, and you'll have a problem flipping it sometimes, and you'll have a problem with the back cast unless you really are good with your roll cast. No matter if I'm trout fishing or if I'm fly fishing, or every bit of our water is tannic. It's a brown stained water, and this, I don't know if you can see it, but this Maximum Chameleon is brown. It's super, super tough. I've got up to fish close to 30 pounds on a 6-weight fly rod using this, and it ran into the rocks. I can't say enough about it. It's my favorite line. For Southeast Alaska, you cannot beat it. I use braid for the main, but all my leader, I use this Maximum Chameleon. I love it, and I've got piles of it. And I use it on my salmon gear, my trout gear. It's just my all-around go-to leader. If I'm fishing real small nymphs, maybe I'll go to a lighter. This stuff's got a lot of memory and it's pretty thick, so maybe I'll go to a lighter 2X leader or something like that. But for my fly rod that I use is I use a 4-weight St. Croix, 9 foot, and I use a 9.5 foot 6-weight St. Croix. Both of them are moderate action. Use a medium arbor reel. All you want to do is, I don't care what kind of reel you use. I use, I want something with a smooth drag. I don't want something that gives and goes all the time. I want something that, lays out a smooth drag. It's really important with your salmon. Not so much on your trout, because you can hand line most of your trout. But we got some really nice trout here. I use Cortland 444 weight forward floating line. I use it on my 4-weight and on my 6-weight. If I want, I add a little loop shot section for sinking tippet. But this leader is pretty much my go-to. If you're going to fish swivels, another thing is I'll show you this a little bit later in the clip, but I don't care what kind of swivel you use, what brand or whatever, but make sure it has a locking tab, and I'll show you what I mean here in a little bit. I'll show you a close-up of these. And they've got a little lock. It's just not a close. It's got a little turnout to where it locks in a groove. They just don't come open. You get those little cheap brass ones. You hook into a good fish if you're using swivels, and they pull out. They're garbage. Any of these locking swivels I really like, and I'll show you a little picture of those. If I'm going to run spinning gear here, I like, this is an ugly stick. This is a medium to moderate action rod. It's an 8.5 foot rod. I'm running a pin reel, 4000 series pin on here. It's a little dirty because I was just taking it steelhead fishing, but I got to get all these rods cleaned up and put away before I get out of here. But this is the Fierce 2. It's got a real smooth drag. You know, they make several different models, but I like that 3 to 4000 series reel. And I put a mainline, a 30-pound Power Pro on here, and then I go to a Chameleon maximum leader, and I use about a 3-foot leader, and I just tie that knot with a uni knot. It needs to be trimmed up. I didn't trim it good enough here, but all I use is a uni knot, and it works great. But I prefer the St. Croix fly rods. It's kind of, I really like their warranty program. The rods aren't super expensive, but they're good quality, and I've just had a lot of luck with them, so I've stayed with them. But I just wanted to cover some of the bases because I run and operate J&J Charters and out of Kaufman Cove on Prince of Wales Island, and I get so many calls and questions about what to bring for tackle and what line and what reel and what pole, and it just gets monotonous. I don't mind helping anybody out, but hopefully this video will help you and will help me. So I'm going to change up, grab the camera, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to kind of point out stuff and go through it slowly. And like I said, this is just a small variety of what I use. I'd have to put out about 5 different tables, but this gives you a really good base of what you're looking for, and hopefully it'll help you out. These are my Sockeye flies, and they're all tied on size 8s and 10s. Some 6s, but you've got a woolly booger, an olive, which is really good. Here's a bucktail streamer, some with flash, some without. But green and red are kind of the go-to. These are just some bucktails. This has got a little flash in it, and it's got a Gamakatsu straight shank hook. All of them are long straight shank hooks. You can tie them on an octopus if you want. There's several of them here that don't have the flash, but they're not very big. They might look a little big, but they're not that big. They're probably 2 inches in length, 2.25 in length. And this one's tied, I think, on a 4 hook. But June, early July, this is the Sockeye fly. Then you go into your salmon, and pretty much, I mean, everything will hit a purple egg sucking leech. This is probably one of my favorites. There's a couple of different articulating leech patterns. It's got the bead on them. Several different varieties. I use a lot of articulating stuff. It's got a lot more movement. I like a size 2 hook on my salmon, or better. 2 to 1 is a good one. You got a lot of different flash fly colors. This one's more of a chum pattern. I use a lot of red and bright yellows on the chum, but a lot of these are articulating, if you can see that. You got some popsicles. Here's another leech pattern in a green head and black body. Here's a mess of different flies that needs to be cleaned up, but I'm trying to get packed up and get out of here. I'm heading out to Panama. So the MEP spinners, we're running in size 4s, mostly size 4s. I use a lot of different, there's so many different varieties of MEP spinners, but you can't go wrong. Don't buy just one of one color. Buy a couple, because if you just buy one, that's mostly going to be the one that's hitting the fish on. There are tackle shops on the island, and they sell a wide variety of stuff. But for the stream fishing, these are kind of the ones I use for salmon. Different colors. This is a Vibrex, Blue Fox Vibrex, number 4. And they come in a massive amount of different colors. You can see how this wire, this one's caught some fish. And see how the wire above the bell, this is the bell here, above the bell that the blade flops around on. If the best key and advice I can give you is, when you're fishing these spinners and you get a bite or you get hung up in a tree, you want to make sure that that wire that this spinner runs on is straight every time, as straight as you can bend it, because it will not fish correctly, and you will be surprised. You'll be throwing, everybody else is catching and you're not, and it'll be this wire that's bent. This is probably my favorite spinner. That's usually the first one I go to. It's locally made. There's a couple gentlemen that make them. One guy makes them out of Thorn Bay, and he quit making them, and other people have kind of taken his place. But it's on a number 4 blade. It's the medium weight. There's a small weight, and then there's a large weight, and then there's this medium, and this is the size I usually get. And then it's got an orange bead, a glow-in-the-dark bead, and then another large bead. And this thing, they will hit it on the fall. You can scream it across the top and they'll hit it. You can jig it. It's something about these colors and that blade. It's a really good spinner. But then again, make sure that wire, every time you get a bite, that wire is straight. If you get a bite, you get a snag, make sure that wire. These spinners, this is an awesome spinner. It comes in a wide variety of colors. The blades are different colors. The bodies are different colors. But this is the 7/8 MEPS Flying C. And it is a super heavy spinner that casts a long ways. And I like it more for saltwater fishing. They come in a wide variety of colors. It's a little heavy for our streams. The Thorn and some of the other rivers it'll do okay on, but it's not one that I throw in the rivers a lot. It just seems to get hung up. It's not that it doesn't catch, it just that it doesn't perform as well as the MEPS or the Blue Foxes. And the Blue Foxes, don't get stuck on just these colors that I got here. Look at what you got in your local tackle shop before you come up, and there'll be a wide variety of colors. Moving on to the trout, and well, I guess I can go into the salmon too. But these jigs that we use we're still in the salmon. These are marabou jigs. They come in a wide variety of colors. I mean, a ton of different colors. But you can fish these with a bobber. You can fish them separately, just bouncing them off the bottom and bringing them in. But they do work, and they work well. And sometimes they'll outfish the spinners. Sometimes you can beat up the spinners. The more aggressive fish are going to hit the spinners. And then you can switch it up. I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try to get a close look at one of these. Try to separate these swivels. But if you can see on that swivel in the top right corner, it's got an ear, turned out ear on the loop, and it hooks itself in there. It just doesn't sit in that little groove. It locks itself in. These locking swivels, I wouldn't get any swivel that wasn't locking with that little ear tore out tab on them. But for the trout, you're going to want it early season, June, July. You're going to want to fish a lot of Castmasters. They're imitating the salmon fry that are coming out, and they come in a wide variety of sizes. I mean, you're looking at, this one's a 3.5 or 1/8 ounce, and you're going to want to fish this mostly for trout, maybe the next size up, but I wouldn't go too big. They're a little heavy and they start hanging up. Then you got a wide variety of jigs that you can fish with a fly rod. You can fish them with a bobber. You can fish them just throwing them with spinning gear. I mean, there's grub colors. There's glow in the dark. I mean, there's just a wide variety. There's, you know, these are pink crappie jigs. I use a lot of crappie jigs for the trout. You can throw them with a fly rod. These are some of the grub patterns that I use. I don't know if you can see them. Some of them imitate salmon smolts. Some of them imitate grubs. And then these flies right here are early season trout flies. They're little tiny. They're tied on a Tiemco hook on a size 10. Straight shank, stainless silver. And I'm telling you, this is probably one of my go-to right out of the gate. It's just a little silver mylar body with a peacock curl over the top and then a little white tail. And it imitates the salmon fry. And I've got 47 trout on 47 casts, and they're all over 10 inches. So I've got some with some artificial backing. It's a little more blue for the back on them. And then the other one's got peacock curl. But those are a lot of what I use for trout early in the season throughout the summer. You get later into the year, you're going to use a lot more of the pink or flesh fly colors. You know, the salmon flesh or salmon eggs. I use a lot of plastic beads or rubber beads. These are rubber. And I use a Gamakatsu red octopus style hook in size 4 for the trout. For the salmon, I'll go up to the size 2. Use a lot of jig heads. Just a variety of jig heads. But this is about the biggest you're gonna throw as a cast master. This is a 3/8 ounce. And that's probably as big as you're going to go. Anywhere from the 1/8 ounce to the 3/8 ounce. Definitely have a variety of split shot. You're going to use quite a bit of them. Fly fishing, trout fishing, you're going to use them. Rooster tails work good on the trout. Have a variety of bobbers or indicators. You'll use them a bunch. But a lot of small spoons too early season, you know what I mean? Little spoons, small spinners. Anything's going to imitate the salmon fry. You're going to use small spoons, small spinners early year for this trout. But this is a little variety. It's not everything I use, but it'll give you a good indication of what you got to look forward to. And hopefully I can get you some video of catching some fish. But right now, it's my off time and I'm getting ready to get out of here. So this is the maximum chameleon line. And I cannot say enough about it. I would get it, depending if I was fishing trout, I'd fish it from 2 to 8 pound. And maybe 10. And then if I was going for salmon, I would go 8 to 15. And it really blends in good with our tannic brown water.
You guys are wanting to know what kind of rods I recommend, or you know, some of the gear. I'll start out by the chest waders. I run a lot of Sims because they seem to hold up and do well and keep me dry. I wear a nice little fleece underlayment underneath it. If you're gonna bring boots and you're worried about weight, you don't need anything fancy. You can go to the secondhand store and buy a nice comfortable pair of hiking boots for $5-10 bucks. When you get done fishing on your trip, throw them in the garbage, leave them with someone else. You don't have to bring, you know, the wading boots are kind of heavy, and if you're worried about weight, these Sims boots are nice. They get a lot of support. I like them because I can put screw-in soles in them or take them out. I don't like soles, screw-ins in my boats. And a lot of people like to wear their waders as rain gear on the boats, which is fine, but I do not want any studs in them. So if you can have removable soles or studs you can take out and put back in, that's great. But these waders, there's a lot of different brands out there. Anything Gore-Tex and waterproof, super light, easy to carry when you're coming to Alaska. A lot of people want to keep their weight down, especially if they're flying on a float plane where weight is an issue. A nice pair of Gore-Tex waders are a must. I wear them all over the place, even on moose hunts. I definitely want a low or a high vest, something that's going to keep out of the water if you have to wade across high spots. Must. These are two of the St. Croix rods that I use a lot. I'll show you the serial numbers and the model numbers on them. Here's another one. They're all 9 to 9.5 foot, 6 weight, medium action. That one's upside down. There we go. See that okay? And just some, the reels are Cabela's reels, medium size arbor, Cortland 444 floating weight forward. Here's another Cabela's reel. They're not expensive, but they do have smooth drags. There's a lot of reels out there, but I really like the smooth drags. I don't want something that's going to stop and go all the time. But that's just some of the basic gear that I bring. So,
well guys, I hope this basic video on the freshwater tackle helps you out and gets you up and running. At least gives you a good head start. But I run J&J charters here in Kaufman Cove, and if you want, you can look me up, get a hold of me at jnjcharters.com. I'm doing these videos to help people out. I'm getting ready to go on a trip to Panama, and I'm having a hard time finding out what kind of gear to take. And I do the same thing that some of my viewers hopefully are doing. They're trying to do a little research before they go somewhere. So check it out. I hope it works. Don't be afraid to call me. If you want to look me up, give me a shout. Come check out our area. We have some great fishing. Anyways, guys, if you like these videos, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Share them with friends. Give me a comment. Let me know if there's something I missed. But this video is to help everybody get to Alaska and be productive. And know where your meat comes from and whack them and stack them. Hope to see you soon.